Okay, hiring. It's challenging to find and manage engineering talent these days. Still, hiring prematurely and then firing people can harm the company culture and team morale. Many adopt the hell yes or no approach. What's that going to link to? Interworks.com. Okay. Hell yeah, well, I've never heard of that approach. Whichever strategy you choose, it's advisable to take time and be intentional about the team you want to build. Absolutely. Again, this all boils down to communication and collaboration. And when you're hiring people, are you hiring people that can communicate ideas? Can they talk? Are they honest? Are they willing to learn? Can they grow as people? And so on and so forth. Has anyone who's watching, have you ever hired anyone or had anyone in a team who's just a really bad hire? I definitely have. Let's have a look at whatever this what's this? Hell yes. I'm intrigued. That text is small. Okay, let's move that over there. Okay, so it's maintaining small group, amazing people is very important to me. Having 500 fact the interview. Hang on, hell yes. Hiring, it's hell yes or no. Okay. Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Sorry. I get it. It's either the person is a hell yes or they're just a straight no. So either if they're not a hell yes, you don't hire them. Okay. When hiring, there are only two options: hell yes or no. Okay, I get it. Would I be excited when I'm evaluating a candidate? I'm interested in hearing their story. I'm not first concerned with salary demands or the technical ability. I'm most definitely not concerned with the role we are trying to fill. I simply want to know what makes them tick, what they're passionate about. Yeah, what they're passionate about, and if they have the fire in their belly. I agree entirely. This is because it was early on in my career. I never do this these days, but I remember doing like a 3-stage interview for Rackspace, and it was overall probably over 4 hours worth of interviews, if I remember rightly. And one of them was a good hour and a half, 2 hours, sitting down with two of the team leaders who were technically minded, but more management and HR-y sort of communicatey kind of people. Very, very extroverted kind of people. And they were awesome. They were really good. Ava was my manager, and she was amazing. He was a great manager. And they were checking for personality, they were checking for communication skills, how you would handle conflict, and how would you go about learning something new. And do you actually care about this? Is this a paycheck to you, or do you genuinely sort of care about serving people and solving problems? And the technical interview was probably about 45 minutes to an hour. So the sort of we're checking for passion. We're checking for what makes them tick. We're checking for passion. We're checking for the fire. Was definitely something that Rackspace took much more seriously than do you know how a load balancer works. Like, they checked that I knew how a load balancer works. They had me whiteboard simple architectures for MySQL servers and clusters and things, and load balancing and Linux and general HTTP traffic and stuff like that, because they wanted to know where you stand, right? But they would take on people who sort of would say, I've got a rough idea of how a load balancer works, which to me is like it's a really simple thing. Most people sort of get how a load balancer works, but they would still hire those people because the second interview of are you passionate? Do you want to learn? They just smashed. They were just really smart people who loved what they were doing. They had the potential. Yeah, that's right, the potential to get the job done, to learn. And so they got hired. And then they went on to become really, really good engineers. I think for the longest time, only people can bullshit their way through, get hired. Also, the myth of the 10 times engineer. Yeah, I've never really got that 10 times engineer thing. I know what it means, and I know what you're referring to, but just some of the ideas that people come up with, it's just mental. Would I be excited to have this person at interworks? If the answer is they were okay, yeah, I kind of like them, or even worse, they could do the job, then the answer is absolutely no. You don't know. Okay, let's have a look. Wikipedia, 10 times engineer. Let's see if Wikipedia's got on it. Oh, there we go, 7 pace. What's this? So the 10 times engineer is like the super engineer that can 10 times their output. They're super good. they're like, yeah, think Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Wozniak, Elon Musk, like the 10 times engineer is this like brilliant mind, is nearly but not quite overshadowed by his bizarre outbursts on Twitter. It's like, yeah, think this guy from Silicon Valley, the guy that creates the Pied Piper protocol, like greybeard. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, if I understand what you mean by greybeard, then yeah, I think so. But they're essentially this engineer that can just like they just know everything. Like they get it. They get maths. They get programming. They get infrastructure. They just get computer science. This guy here from Pied Piper, where he develops this thingy, this compression algorithm. He's like that's like the sort of meme of a 10 times engineer. Yeah, they know just everything and they just push out insane amounts of work really quickly, and then that then cascaded and became this thing where companies started like looking for and marketing for this 10 time engineer. They'd be like, are you a 10 times engineer? Like you should come work for us. But it is utter bullshit. Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. It's an engineer who's 10 times better at their job than their peers. That's essentially the sort of breakdown of it. And it is bullshit. There's no such thing. There are certainly people who are extremely, of course there are people who are at the top of the pyramid, right? There are always people who perform at an extremely high level. If there weren't, then we wouldn't have the Olympics. Like we wouldn't have elite special forces. Navy SEALs wouldn't exist. Olympians wouldn't exist. There are always people who push hard but they're not 10 times. They're 10 times better at their job because they've gone 10 times harder than everyone else, maybe even 20 or 30 times harder than everyone else. Whereas most people, if you think of something like the 80-20 principle, like 80% of the population can be 20% as good but get 80% of the work done. So most of the population can be a fraction as good but will get you 80-85% of the way there, and then you might need someone who's just slightly better than them to get you the rest of the way there. But you most certainly don't need to be 10 times better at your job than other people. It's utter bullshit. And the big issue with 10 times engineer is creating an anti-pattern like knowledge lock, star programmer. Yeah. So the company rise and fall depend on a single person. Absolutely. Yeah. No, spot on. That person is sort of like an instance silo that comes into your business. Like if you have a team of 4 and then they come in and they complement it and they make that dream team of 5, it's really a team of 1, and the 10 times engineer gets elevated and sort of lifted up like some kind of divine entity on a plinth. They get risen so high that it's almost as if everyone else is sort of their assistant, and they're there to support them. But then, of course, you end up with this single person that's just a solid silo. I think we get that now. We can come off that. Who's this silo of knowledge that can make or break a company. I read the Phoenix Project, and they warn about the bottlenecks of having talent that everyone has to go to. Yeah, absolutely. What was his name in that? Was it Brett? Was it Brett or Brent or something? Was the guy in the Phoenix Project who was that sort of? He'd been there for like something like that. Yeah, he'd been there for like 15 years, and everything was in his head, kind of thing. Exactly right. Although even that's not really an example of a 10 times engineer. That's just someone that's been there a very long time and has all the knowledge in their head. Yeah, no, it's utter bullshit. I like this. Yeah, the hell yes or no. Okay. That's quite a good idea. Yeah, I guess that just laughing because I've just read down a little bit further. I can see another plug. So I think baby voice is gonna make a return. Many adopt the hell yes or no approach. Yeah, I like that. It's sort of like if the candidate's making you feel really excited, like, oh yeah, I definitely want to work with that guy, then it's a hire. And I think this is definitely more true for when you're hiring in teams with permanent employment. As a contractor, I run the risk of not meeting expectations when I go into a client, and then all they've got to do is give me 1 week's notice, and that's it, it's over. And so, but that's the risk I take when contracting. And it's a risk they take when hiring a contractor, because I can also go, this company doesn't meet my expectations, and I can leave within a week as well. So yeah, that's why the wages are higher. So I agree. I think your hiring processes definitely need to they need to have a very sort of clear goal of what you're trying to hire. You're trying to hire for, technical skill and technical knowledge, or are you trying to find the right people who can grow with the organization? Because no one business really is going to solve just sort of like one problem. It's going to grow with the economy and solve multiple problems for multiple people.